Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we wrap up another week. Glad to have you spend a few minutes of your day with me. Here's what we're going to talk about today. President Trump pushed back on a statement by the Chinese president describing the U.S. as a declining nation. You can probably imagine how this conversation went. We have an update on the president's visit to China. Federal employees are suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Secretary Brooke Rollins after she sent department emails on Christmas and Easter with religious messages, Christian messages. And given the choice between appearing with Vice President JD Vance on Thursday in the main city that she calls home, or preserving her record-setting perfect voting streak in the U.S. Senate, Maine Senator Susan Collins chose to keep her streak alive and stayed in the nation's capital. South Carolina Representative John McCravey will be with us to give us the latest in the ongoing redistricting saga as state legislators head back to the state capitol to tackle redrawing congressional maps. Also, Congresswoman Sherry Biggs joins us to remember the fallen heroes we'll have in our prayers today on this National Peace Officers Memorial Day as we wrap up National Police Week. It's a busy one. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
We haven't talked much about the president's visit to China. There's just been so much other breaking news, particularly with the redistricting issue that we've talked so much about this week. And as we watch this national story unfold here in South Carolina, we just run out of time. So I want to spend a few minutes. Yesterday, the president pushed back after Chinese President Xi Jinping reportedly described the U.S. as a declining nation. Arguing that the country has rebounded under his administration after what he called years of damage under former President Joe Biden. The president took not too kindly to those words. He posted on True Social. When the Chinese president very elegantly referred to the United States as perhaps being a declining nation, he was referring to the tremendous damage we suffered during the 4 years of Sleepy Joe Biden and the Biden administration. And on that score, he was 100% correct. Our country suffered immeasurably with open borders, high taxes, transgender for everybody, men and women's sports, DEI, horrible trade deals, rampant crime, and so much more. The president continued saying the U.S. has seen an incredible rise during the first 16 months of the Trump administration, pointing to record stock markets, 401ks growing, military victories, renewed economic strength, what he described as a booming job market. He also touted a military victory and thriving relationship in Venezuela, as well as the military decimation of Iran. Now, the president also cited trillions of dollars in foreign investment flowing into the U.S. He praised the administration's rollback of diversity, equity, inclusion programs. He claimed the Chinese president congratulated him on what he called the administration's tremendous successes in a short period of time. President Trump wrote, 2 years ago, we were, in fact, a nation in decline. On that, I fully agree with the president. But now the United States is the hottest nation anywhere in the world, and hopefully our relationship with China will be stronger and better than ever. So, you got two world leaders kind of back and forth there, a little jockeying for position, if you will. Now, the Chinese president also issued a very stark warning to President Trump that Taiwan could trigger, quote, clashes and even conflicts between the world's two superpowers, suggesting potential confrontation into an otherwise upbeat summit in Beijing, basically saying stay away from Taiwan. Taiwan, that is a topic that we're not going to agree on. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning, said President Xi stressed to President Trump that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. If it is handled properly, the bilateral relationship will enjoy overall stability. Otherwise, the two countries will have clashes and even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. Basically, just it appears they were establishing some ground rules, right? You know, we don't need you going there. Basically, telling Trump, which he doesn't like to be told anything, but you got to stay away from Taiwan. Well, that's just not going to happen totally. The president, according to reports, sort of had a very warm tone, a conciliatory tone, if you will, in his public remarks, predicting a fantastic future together. He praised the Chinese president as a great leader as the two leaders opened talks pretty much focused on trade, investment, economic cooperation. The president said, in fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president has had, we've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. Now, of course, the Democrats didn't quite see it as getting along. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted President Trump following the meeting. He accused Trump of failing to respond forcefully to the Chinese president's warning. Schumer said just hours in, Chinese president has already threatened to, quote, collide or even clash, unquote, with the United States if we continue to support Taiwan. Trump apparently didn't say anything in response. Schumer said he was just mute. For the sake of democracy and the stability of the global economy, Trump must not sell out Taiwan. Trump must also safeguard the interests of American workers, families, and businesses. The exchange, of course, kind of spotlights how Taiwan, along a very sensitive and potentially explosive issue with between the U.S. and China, that it's reemerging as a potential fault line, even as both sides appear to project stability and focus publicly on trade and economic cooperation. It's just sort of that underlying current that neither party is addressing head on. But the Chinese understand our relationship with Taiwan. They don't like it. They don't like the idea that we're going to be selling a lot of weapons to Taiwan. Now, this is not a surprise. Analysts had warned ahead of this summit that the best case scenario for Taiwan would be for the issue to stay off the agenda entirely. Just don't talk about it. Ignore it. Because China would love to back us into a corner, or at least make us feel like we're backed into a corner, and for us to just totally eliminate our relationship with Taiwan. It's not going to happen. Trump himself had suggested before the summit that U.S. arms sales to Taiwan could come up during the discussions. He told reporters earlier this week, quote, "I'm going to have that discussion with the Chinese president." Now, some people were kind of upset about that, about the national security implications of that. Some of those analysts warned against allowing Taiwan to become part of a broader U.S.-China negotiation over trade or other strategic issues, basically telling the president you just need to keep it to the topic, which is trade, the economy, how we can better work together under that scenario. Experts say even subtle shifts in wording and the topics could have significant consequences if interpreted the wrong way. A change from the long-standing U.S. position that it does not support Taiwan independence to language stating that it opposes it, for example, could be seized by Beijing to bolster its claims over the self-governing island. It's a real tricky topic in that region. For decades, U.S. policy has walked a very fine line formally recognizing Beijing as the government of China under the One China policy, while also maintaining that unofficial relationship with Taiwan and providing it with defensive weapons under the Taiwan Relations Act. Washington has deliberately kept its military response ambiguous, a strategy known as strategic ambiguity, aimed at deterring both a Chinese invasion and a unilateral declaration of independence by Taiwan. But things could go south very quickly with again, the wrong thing being said or the wrong thing being interpreted, at least. Chinese embassy spokesperson reiterated Beijing's longstanding position in a statement to Fox News, saying Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory and warned that China would never promise to renounce the use of force against Taiwan independence. They're drawing a line in the sand, and I think they'll probably stick to it. There's a moment no one wants to talk about with weight loss. It's the moment it stops working. Joey Hudson here. The diet that worked before doesn't. The workouts don't hit the same. Even eating less stops moving the scale. That's not random. That's your body protecting itself. Because when your body thinks it's under stress, it slows your metabolism, holds on to fat, and fights you every step of the way. That's why quick fixes eventually fail. Even the popular GLP-1 shots, they suppress appetite, but they don't fix what caused the problem. At PhD Weight Loss, they focus on restoring your metabolism so your body stops fighting you. That's when the real change happens. And right now, when you call or mention Joey, you're going to get 2 weeks free, and they'll pay for the cost of your food. Just call 864-644-1900. Do it right now and get ready for the summer. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com, because the goal isn't to lose weight once. It's to never have to start over again. Call today and tell them Joey sent you. Here's some interesting political trivia for you, if you will. Veteran Senator Susan Collins is once again leaning into one of the defining themes of her long political career, and that's just simply showing up, being on the job. While Vice President JD Vance was visiting her hometown of Bangor, Maine, this was yesterday, the longtime Republican senator stayed behind in the nation's capital back in Washington, preserving what has become one of the most remarkable attendance records in the U.S. Senate history. According to her office, Senator Collins has now cast nearly 10,000 consecutive roll call votes without missing one during her nearly 3 decades in the U.S. Senate. This is just unheard of. That streak has become just part of her political identity as she heads into what could be one of her toughest reelection battles in her Senate career. She's 73 years old. She's seeking her 6th term. She's facing Democrat challenger Graham Plattner, a former Marine and oyster farmer who has never held elected office but has reportedly energized Maine Democrats heading into the midterms with just a glimpse of a possible victory. And, of course, the race carries national implications. Democrats are widely viewed as needing to flip seats like Maine. They hope to regain control of the U.S. Senate. Obviously, Republicans, we need to hold on to it. We don't always agree with Ms. Collins, but we can count on her vote occasionally. And she does vote. She votes often. 10,000 consecutive roll call votes. You know, I'd love to see the history of this, and if anyone has ever even come close to that. Now, she's an odd bird. She continues to occupy a very unique political lane, especially in today's polarized environment. She's one of the few remaining Republicans who voted to convict President Donald Trump during his 2nd impeachment trial. She has opposed portions of President Trump's legislation and recently sided with Democrats on a war powers resolution tied to Iran. At the same time, she continues voting with Republicans on many judicial and executive confirmations, which is very important. If we can maintain control of the Senate and get more conservative judges nominated, you can typically depend on a vote from Senator Collins. This balancing act has really defined much of her Senate career. That independence, It even drew a comment from the vice president during his Bangor appearance. Vance told supporters, but the thing I love about Susan is she is independent because Maine is an independent state. He added, kind of joking, that while he sometimes wished Collins were more partisan, her political style fits Maine voters. Basically, she responds to her constituents. She responds to the people of Maine who are somewhat independent. And that may be the central question of this race. It certainly has allowed her to survive all of these many years in the U.S. Senate. Because in an era that's dominated by ideological loyalty and party line politics, can a longtime institutional Republican still win by presenting herself as a independently minded person? Is that possible? We hope, because she's our only shot. Are Maine voters going to stick with her, or are they ready for a generational and political change? We're going to find out in November. Federal employees are suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Secretary Brooke Rollins, accusing the Trump official of Christian proselytizing after she sent department emails on Christmas and Easter with religious messages. The complaint was brought by the National Federation of Federal Employees and 7 USDA employees. It accuses Secretary Rollins of, quote, sending increasingly proselytizing communications to the entire USDA workforce, promoting her own preferred brand of Christian beliefs and theology to the captive audience of employees that report to her. In the complaint, the plaintiffs say Rollins sent emails to all USDA employees on national and religious holidays, most overtly on Easter, with a Christian message. Well, of course, that's our holiday. The Easter message sent by Rollins reportedly said in part, Happy Easter, he is risen indeed. Today we celebrate the greatest story ever told, the foundation of our faith, and the abiding hope of all mankind, she wrote. A drawing of an empty tomb with the words Christ is risen was in the same email, according to the complaint. This email was part of a broader pattern of religious messages sent on other holidays, the complaint says, starting with the email on July 4th that included the line, May God continue to protect the United States of America, and may his favor shine over all her land. And they're suing over this? It's going to cost our tax dollars to defend this lawsuit over a message that most of the country agrees with. Wonder how it would go over if she just fired them all. I have no patience for stuff like this. Look, just delete the email. Delete it. Ms. Rollins, we're told, also sent a video message before Christmas that referred to Jesus as our Savior. Well, he is. He is our Savior in the Christian faith. That's what Christmas is all about. If you don't agree with that, then don't take your Christmas vacation time. Stay in your office and work if you object to Christmas. Now, the plaintiffs, who include employees of various faith backgrounds as well as non-religious employees, say the emails amount to coercion, religious sermonizing, and denominational preference that leaves them feeling excluded and unwelcome in the workplace. Get over it. Find another job. Oh, you probably couldn't find a job in the private sector, could you? Does this kind of stuff just bug you as much as it does me? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Should we just be catering to people like this? Should we just tell them to shut up and go home? Again, fire them. That's probably what Donald Trump would do if he could, wouldn't he? The complaint reads, notwithstanding that fear of retaliation, plaintiffs from across the agency together bring this action to vindicate their constitutional right to be free from the government imposition of religion and to stop the Secretary from further pressuring and intimidating them and other USDA employees who may be afraid to come forward. Go get another job. If you don't like it, find a company who will hire you. Wow. Join me on our guest line to kind of break it down for us and give us an update on what is happening in the state capitol from Greenwood, South Carolina, Representative John McCravey. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Joey. We've had some wild times in Columbia recently.
I tell you, it's just been crazy trying to keep up with it. So what a wild week. So Governor McMaster, I'm going to do a quick summary. Governor McMaster said he would not call the legislature back into session for redistricting. That was just earlier in the week. You guys voted to take up redistricting. The South Carolina Senate said no, they did not agree on Tuesday. Now, with some back and forth, it looks like you guys are coming back because the governor at 5:01 p.m. or whatever yesterday says, all right, I want you guys back at 11 a.m. So take it from there.
Well, that's correct. We're going to be back. We're going to take this up at 11 o'clock. We're going to debate it, and we're going to actually stop and open up the map room from what I understand. So anybody that wants to make an appointment and go to the map room, take a look at the map, amend the bill with a new map is going to have the opportunity to do that. They want everybody to have that time to do that. So the map room is going to be open Friday. It's going to be open Saturday all day long. People are going to be working overtime. And on Monday, we plan to take up the bill itself to redistrict in the House. So that could be a very long day.
Yep.
And we imagine there'll be, we already had protesters. We had disruption in the balcony this week when that bill came up. They had to remove a lot of people from the balcony. We've had issues in the committee. So I think it's going to be more the same next week.
Yep. I watched some of the committee hearing. I guess that was Tuesday. And it appeared to me on what little time I spent on there that most of the people speaking were people speaking against it. They appeared to be Democrats who were opposed to any redistricting. So kind of walk us through this, because when the Senate on Tuesday, when there were 5 GOP senators who voted with the Democrats to keep this from moving forward, did you think it was dead then?
With Donald Trump, I'm not sure anything's dead. he has a way of moving people in ways they didn't think they could be moved.
Yeah.
So we knew he was for this, and once he got on the phone and started calling, it was my thought that he's going to change some minds.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have 5 senators who did not vote for this, but that was in a sine die, and you have to have a 2/3 majority. I think this bill's only going to have a majority, so that'll be very easy to get through, hopefully, and it'll be smooth. It won't. I say smooth. It won't be smooth because we'll have protests. We'll have people claiming all kind of things and that it's unfair. But Joey, I do want to say this. Alan Wilson was right when he testified in our subcommittee, and he said there are 6 New England states that have 21 representatives that have approximately 40% Republican states, and they don't have a single Republican in their districts at all. So they've been doing this for years. They've been getting away with this. We've been saddled with the Voting Rights Act that required us to basically discriminate. And so now we're not required to discriminate. The northern states, a lot of them never were required under the Voting Rights Act to be looked at. So they've been discriminating Republicans for years.
Yeah.
So we're just now catching up with what everybody else has been doing.
Yeah. Well, look, back in the day when you had to get pre-clearance from the DOJ to even move forward, I mean, it was quite the process. And I guess that's where, I'm thinking back to those days, and I know you don't have to do that anymore, but I'm just thinking you guys are expected to do in a day what would typically take a year or more to accomplish.
Well, that's right in a way, and some of us advocated for redistricting as far back as August. I did. I know you can go find a Facebook post of mine back in August saying we ought to redistrict. But with the Supreme Court case, I think there's no doubt we have to redistrict.
Yeah.
So it's to put it off, to me, is putting off what's right, and I don't think we should do that.
Yeah.
So we need it. It can affect our whole nation, Joey. It's not just about South Carolina. It's about our whole nation, and whether or not we have a majority in the midterms. If we don't have a majority, it's going to be all about impeaching Trump all over again. It'll be like the old Russia, but it'll be something else.
Yeah.
So we just don't want that. We don't want our country to come to a standstill because of this. And if South Carolina can contribute, I want to contribute.
Sure. Representative John McCravey is my guest. We're trying to just kind of wrap our brains around what's next on this redistricting. It's literally consumed the headlines all week long. So the map, Representative McCravey, that is being called the White House map or the Trump map or whatever, makes some pretty extreme changes in some of the districts, splitting counties, realigning cities within counties that have been together for years. Do you support that map, or is there some flexibility that maybe there'll be some tweaks to that map?
Well, the White House has been studying this. They've a team that has looked at this, and they've given us what they believe is the most viable map that is possible, and it actually gives Republican +9 in every district or more.
Yeah.
So I think it's solid as far as us getting it looks solid as far as us getting all Republican districts and at least having a chance. I don't want to say we will get them. Voters can do what they want to do, but I'm just saying that it gives us now a fair opportunity to have Republicans in every district, and we're not going to be discriminating in one district to make sure we have a Democrat in one district, a minority in one district. We don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the whole issue. And the Supreme Court said, look, this is unconstitutional. What you were forced to do in South Carolina, and that is draw in a minority. You have to, instead of saying that we had to, federal law has now changed that we cannot do that. So it's completely reversed. And so it's our responsibility to change that map.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. I'm going to be down with a bag of popcorn because I got a feeling that you guys are going to be there for a while on Monday. Now, first you got to, of course, get through today and
that's right.
and the process. But it's going to be because I remember in the past when sort of lightly watching redistricting and reading about it, and I've talked to some of my friends who served in the legislature in the past and have been through this, and they said, you always at the last minute you got some guy coming up and he looks at it, he said, no, we got to change this because you just drew my mother-in-law out of my district. We got to put her back in. And you get stuff like that, don't you?
Well, you do. And, the good news is we don't have to redistrict all of the South Carolina state and local seats.
Right.
We're only doing the federal districts, so it's not quite as involved as it would be if we were doing all of them. But there may be a time, and I'm hearing already that before the next election that we are going to redraw all the South Carolina districts.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, if we're going to wait till the decade's over, but that'll be up to leadership whether they want to bring that out or not. But that's more of a state issue.
Yeah.
And we're just dealing with the emergency issue right now of trying to redraw the congressional districts.
Yeah. Well, and I suspect that you will be visiting the state districts as well, because I think there's probably some seats to be picked up there. But and I do understand that you're doing just the congressional districts, but it's just again, it's going to be an interesting process to watch. Now, what happens if, in fact, you get in session on Monday and you just can't come to a resolution?
Well, I think from taking a read on the Republicans in the room, and we do have a supermajority, although sometimes it doesn't feel like it. I think the Republicans are unified on this, and I think maybe with the exception of a few, which I'm not even convinced about that I think it'll pass. So I think it's a strong majority vote for this in the House. I think you're going to see the same thing in the Senate. even though the 5 may not vote for it, there's not enough votes. Even if the 5 join with the Democrats, I don't think there's enough votes to stop it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to go. I really do. I hope we're not doing this for nothing, and I think it's going to work.
Yeah. So let's just assume then that you guys you pass it on Monday, then the Senate has to come back in, and then they have to concur. Then we delay the primaries until August. Is that what happens?
Well, that's right. It'll be. I think they will be put off. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it's August 9th. Am I right about that? But something in that neighborhood. Yeah. The primaries will be moved back.
Yeah.
Just for the congressman.
Yeah. And we'll
thing is
some of
the ballots may still have the congressman on it, even though they won't count.
Oh, it's my understanding, that the ballots on June 9th will still have those names on it. But will filing be reopened?
Yes, sir. I think so.
Yeah.
It will. It'll have to be.
Yeah.
It'll have to be reopened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're going to be watching.
So that's going to open a lot of. That's going to open a lot more questions.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be watching very closely, and maybe check back in with you next week, Representative John McCravy. It's always good to have you.
All right, same here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey.
Coming up, we're going to be joined from the 3rd Congressional District, Congresswoman Sherry Biggs joins us, and we're going to be talking about redistricting with the Congresswoman as well. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. This week, communities across America have been observing National Police Week, a time to honor the brave men and women in law enforcement who put their lives on the line every single day to protect our families and our communities. Joining us now is Congresswoman Sherry Biggs to talk about National Police Week and the brave men and women who wear the blue. Welcome, Congresswoman. Always good to have you.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
This past Wednesday, thousands gathered for the 38th annual Candlelight Vigil, where 109 officers' names from 2025 were added to the National Law Enforcement Memorial in the nation's capital. This week of remembering really hits home for the upstate as we remember Greenwood police officer DJ Keller, who was killed in what should have been a routine traffic stop. But, there's nothing routine about serving in law enforcement these days, is there?
No, it's so sad. That was such a good young man, and he had his whole life ahead of him, only 31 years old. It's heartbreaking, and I have talked to some of my friends and constituents that live in Greenwood, and that whole area, that community is just devastated and looking for answers, and it definitely breaks your heart. I did a floor speech this week honoring his service and remembering him, and it was really difficult. I have a lot of respect for the job that they do, and it's just hard to accept losing him at such a young age.
Yeah, that's for sure. Of course, today is Peace Officers Memorial Day. It's always celebrated, and we remember those that we've lost on May the 15th of each year. You described Officer Keller as a faithful public servant, husband, father, fellow National Guardsman. What does his life and service say about the kind of people who choose to go into law enforcement and first responder and our military service?
Well, they obviously put others above themselves, and he certainly did. And I just have so much respect for these men and women. Sometimes they have to have second jobs to support their family. They certainly don't do it for the money, and they put their lives on the line every single day. And they have to have great families to support them to be able to do this. And my heart goes out to the Keller family, and I'm thankful to the men and women, to their families at home that support what they do to offer protection for our communities, and they definitely are our heroes.
Yeah. As you travel around your district, and with me today is from the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina, Representative Sherry Biggs. As you travel around, you talk to a lot of first responders, firefighters, EMTs, police officers. Do you believe they feel less supported now or more supported during these times?
I'll tell you one thing. We cover all 11 of our counties in the 3rd District, and I visit sheriff's offices. I visit city police officers. I visit the fire departments, and I try to make sure that our first responders and our law enforcement, that they know how we feel and that we support them. And I do think things are better under President Trump. You can walk through the halls of the Capitol, and you can see offices. We have signs out by our doors right now, right by our flags, that talk about defending and not defunding our police, and how we're grateful for their service. So I think now is a different time and day, and want to make sure that our officers know how much we support them.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you, I've had the good fortune to be at the candlelight vigil a number of times as part of my duties with the Mike Gallagher Show Charitable Foundation. We distribute the first responder Bible, and so quite often I'm invited to join in, and it's just amazing to be there and see thousands of people in that candlelight service as names are added. This year, 109 names added to that memorial of people that we lost in 2025. So, we just have to make sure they understand how important they are to us, and that we keep them in our prayers. Before we wrap up, Congresswoman, I've got to ask you about your thoughts on the idea of the South Carolina General Assembly being called back to redraw congressional districts. You got any insight? What do you expect will happen?
I wish I did have insight. I love the 3rd District, and I mentioned my 11 counties, and I've made a lot of good friends, and my constituents are absolutely the best. So I'm kind of a little on edge, waiting to see what happens. And, I'm going to do my best to serve the 3rd District wherever those lines may fall. But I have a lot of confidence in our legislature for South Carolina, and I feel like they're going to make good decisions on a fair district map. And I just look forward to continuing to serve. Of course, we're coming up on some pretty hard deadlines, and I'm feeling a little bit of urgency to come to a resolution and know what our next step is. But I feel confident that we'll get it done. That's the way South Carolina works. So.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, June 9th is just around the corner. You guys have been campaigning with the expectation that people would be going to the polls. Of course, from my understanding, this week there's already been like 6,800 ballots sent out to military and other absentees around the state. So some people have already voted, literally. So if the primary is delayed, how do you, as far as your campaign, how do you kind of adjust for that if we're looking at possibly an August date now?
Well, obviously, we would be trying to get to the areas that would be new to our district to set up meet and greets and try to have an opportunity to talk with individuals to let them know who we are. But, our filing has already opened and closed, so that leaves a lot of uncertainty. Would they reopen filing? Would we have new opponents? There's just a lot of unknowns, so I'm like everybody else, just anxiously waiting to hear. But in the meantime, I'm just keeping my head down and making good votes for the 3rd District as I know it right now in South Carolina, and just ready to serve.
Yeah, well, and that's all you can do. Congresswoman, every day I end my show by saying God is in control. He is, and that's all we can do is just we know that eventually it's going to work out, and we just have to trust in Him.
He is, and I would love for your listeners to keep our lawmakers in their prayers as they do the law enforcement this week. We could certainly use it for our country and for our state and for our local districts.
Absolutely. Congresswoman Sherry Biggs, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Joining me on the guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing well, Joey. I hope you are too. It was a great night the other night seeing you and Mike Gallagher. They did a good job. A lot of candidates came out for that candidate meet and greet at the downtown library, and I think a pretty decent show of people showed up to kind of meet everybody from governor's candidates to local candidates.
I was extremely pleased when I walked in and there was a line out the door to get in. I mean, all the programs that were involved in putting that on should be proud of the turnout. And as you said, a lot of candidates too. So just a good opportunity for everybody, for you guys whose names are going to be on the ballot to meet people, but for, more importantly, for people to be able to meet and talk with you as well. And what a wild week or so we have had. Governor McMaster last week said that he would not call the legislature back into session for redistricting. The South Carolina House then voted to take up redistricting. Then the South Carolina Senate said no, they didn't agree. And now maybe this afternoon at the end of the session, the governor calls them back. What can you tell us?
Well, what I can tell you is nothing can happen till 5:01 today, and that the governor wants to see the will of the people be done. He was clear. The governor is a true statesman, and so he has said it in his very Governor McMaster way. He has asked the General Assembly early on. I think he made that statement a week and a half ago now, maybe 2 weeks. My time is running all together, but he basically said, listen, after the Supreme Court dropped their new decision, he said to the General Assembly, go back in and make sure our maps are in line.
Yeah.
And the House, Speaker Smith, put it up, talked about it, I'm assuming with the House. An amendment was added to the sine die. They said yes. Then all of a sudden, sine die amendment has to go over to the Senate, which now, to confirm it, needs a 2/3 vote.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was there. I was sitting on the Senate floor on Tuesday, watching it all unfold. And Joey, it was shocking to me. I mean, what the sine die was asking for was for the General Assembly to look at our maps. It wasn't to adopt a new map at that point or say what a new map would look like, but to open it up and objectively take a look and see that we were in a line. And 5 Republican senators wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about that map, because the map that's being called the White House map, I guess or some people called it the Trump map. It makes some pretty extreme changes in districts, splitting counties, realigning counties that have shared the same district for a decade or more. Do you support that map, or is there an opening here that maybe that map could be tweaked some?
I kind of sit, where the governor sits on this. Is that the best map? I heard Senator Rankin. I mean, we have two Rankins, yes, one in the House, one in the Senate, but Senator Rankin said maybe this is the best map. He doesn't know because nobody's really sat and studied it. It's just different.
Yeah.
And I was in the subcommittee hearing meeting about the constitutionality of our current map, where the drafter of the new map, whether you want to call it the White House map, said that this was all scientifically done, that this was in line with the new. It takes a race completely out. And that's how this map was drawn. And so, I don't think anybody ever looked at it this way. I hope maybe today they can do it. Maybe today they can come in and say, listen, let's take up looking at this map so that the governor, doesn't have to call anybody back in. I don't know what the best map is, but I think we owe it to the people of South Carolina and we owe it to this nation to make sure that our current map is in line.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then we need to make changes like so many other states are doing. I mean, yesterday, Georgia announced that they will be doing redistricting in Georgia. And so, I'd say, all right, come on, guys, what is the fear? Sit down and do the right thing. Because I'm telling you, Joey, I said this and I said it in the House hearing, is that I represent the entire state. These legislators represent their area. And there was not a legislator that is talking about this in a negative way that I've not heard from their constituents saying, stand your ground, continue to say we need to have redistricting done.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked about this a lot. I always feel you are elected to do the will of the people that elect you. You are the collective voice that they send to Columbia.
Yeah.
And that's what your constituents want. So, everybody talked about like, oh, is President Trump going to come after them? I don't know that President Trump, at least in my assessment, needs to be the one to come after them.
Right.
Because I think their own people, their own voters are going to remember that they didn't do everything they could to, one, hear them and do their bidding, and two, do everything they could for our nation to make sure that we retain Congress, make sure things were drawn fairly, and that we're being represented.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be quite interesting to watch. Of course, as you said, that the Senate has through today, but at 5:01, if they haven't made that decision, it appears that the governor will be calling the House back tomorrow, and then the Senate early next week. It's going to be interesting to watch. I'm going to have my popcorn ready.
I think everybody will, Joe. It'll take all the air out of the room for the next few days.
That is for sure. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evan, always a pleasure. Be safe.
Thank you, Joey.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.